Hi, Lowe's. Here we are in episode 2 of Navigating Coronavirus via her mystery school and deep feminine approach. What I want to address today are boundaries, containment, and the unknown. So, of all the things that are not clear, I think there are 3 things that are pretty clear. A lot of us, all of us, are navigating boundaries. What keeps us safe, what should be inside of our space, what should not be, a lot of decisions around boundaries. Containment, coming into peace and acceptance and even potentially empowerment around the kind of enforced containment that's happening. And then the unknown. We are so in the unknown. And a lot of what is coming up for most of us is, yes, okay, it's definitely circumstantial. It's definitely in relationship to what's actually happening. But we're also getting pushed up against some of the deeper pains, deeper misunderstandings, and deeper imbalances that we've been holding. So how we've always held boundaries, how we've always held safety within boundaries, how we hold the unknown, how we relate to containment versus expansive freedom, right? These are some of the things that are up for us to be with. And there are ways to eliminate some of the angst from what we're all experiencing, what we're being asked to grow into. So, yes, there's a lot of change, for sure. But there is also natural law. There are also some really kind of simple things that we can trust happening here. So let's start. Boundaries, containment, the unknown. So boundaries. First thing, always with boundaries, remember that the ultimate purpose of boundaries, the first purpose of a boundary is to keep you in rather than to keep others out. So your actions may be the same. The end result may be the same, right? The needs may be the same. But when you choose to move into boundary from a place of knowing that what you're doing is keeping yourself in, you are keeping your power close, right? You're keeping yourself close so that you can feel yourself, right? You are doing what you need to do in order to make sure that you are of the greatest use you can be to yourself, to your family, to your world. It's a different movement than trying to keep everything out, which you can never do. You can, because your own energy and your own choice point here is always with you, you do have a lot more agency in terms of choosing to keep yourself in, right? Keep yourself close. If you try to keep everything out, including keeping coronavirus out or potential circumstances out or everything out, you're going to get overwhelmed, you're going to get dispersed, you're going to freak out, and then you're going to be far more vulnerable to all of it than you would if you actually focused on keeping yourself close. We're talking about gathering power, right? Rather than dispersing power. So boundaries, as you approach your boundaries in terms of decisions you need to make right now about who you're going to spend time with, where you're going to go, when you go there, how far away you're going to be, how you're going to navigate your boundaries. If you can, in your intention, just hold, I'm choosing to keep myself in, right? Not to keep others out. It's going to make it a more nourishing movement, even though the outcome will be the same, even though your choices will be the same. This is about how you are holding and speaking to your nervous system, your immune system, your heart, your energy system, right? You are giving yourself the invitation to cultivate power rather than to exhaust yourself in fighting off everything that is outside of your control. Make sense? The other thing that can come along with that is that when you're out and you're choosing to wear a mask or not, or distance, or whatever you're doing, right? That you can see others and the boundaries that we're holding with each other, like the boundaries of space, the boundaries of touching, right? All these boundaries that we're holding that are new for a lot of us. You can see that as evidence of love, evidence of helping each person support their own vulnerability rather than as evidence that everybody's contagious or everybody's a potential threat. This matters. It matters, and you have choice. You have choice about when you go out into the world right now, and the very few ways that you might be doing that. Whether you go out as someone who is fighting against an invisible enemy that you can't see and can't win against, and who sees everyone as a potential threat, everyone as a potential, a potential threat. You have a choice to shift that and to go out, to choose what you'll be an instrument of, right? Calm, containment, rather than aggression and contraction. So everything that you're doing right now to hold greater boundaries, in its essence, is an act of love, right? Our world isn't full of people that we have to be so protective against. It's full of people and life that we care about, including our own, right? And our choices are coming from that. Anchor in that. You want to support your immune system through the way that you're holding your whole field, the way that you're relating to the other matters right now. That's what's up. The immune system, what's yours, what's not. How do you keep safe, keep healthy, what is yours, and defend against what shouldn't come in? Well, that comes from having the clarity and the resilience inside to be able to see what that is and to be able to trust your own system, your own being. So, boundaries, keeping yourself in instead of keeping others out. What does it take? What does it take to keep you in and at peace and contained and feeling powerful and clear? Do that. And safe. Do that, right? It's going to have a lot to do with disconnecting from media, right? Your boundaries are not at all just about how you're choosing to navigate boundaries between yourself and other people and moving around in the world. They are very much about how you are choosing to navigate the boundaries between yourself and your peace and the media frenzy that's happening, right? You can keep your finger on the pulse of what you need to know in order to be safe and in order to make good decisions without toxifying your system with the frenzy that's happening, right? You'll know what that is. You'll be able to feel it, because when it comes into your system, instead of galvanizing you to right action, instead of giving you a sense that you're more empowered because you know what's going on and you know what to do, you'll feel overwhelmed. You'll be in the face of a bunch of things that you can't validate, and you'll disperse. You'll lose yourself in it instead of feeling returned to yourself. Boundaries. Boundaries, containment, the unknown. This is what we're with today. Containment. So many of us, via the overculture or whatever, we associate the good life with feeling free, being able to move, being able to do what we want to do, being able to realize our dreams, right? Well, what's happening right now, for the most part, is containment, for sure. It's not a movement of expansive freedom, right? We're being contained, right? And it's also not about being able to do whatever we want to do, right? We're being asked to surrender things that we want, things that we even felt like we needed, and to contain instead. So your alliance with containment, your ability to not resist the actual movement of containment, is important. So understand that containment as a movement is powerful. It does generate a kind of freedom, right? Containment. What comes from containment? Consolidation, which leads to clarity and peace, right? Containment is a gathering of power. So you have a choice here. And again, your system, your emotional system, your mind, the way you're thinking about it and framing your choices, your nervous system is going to respond to your will force and the way that you hold all of this. So if you can hold containment as what it is, which is an opportunity to gather power rather than a contraction or an imprisonment, you are going to come out of this time more saturated in your own presence, with more clarity, and actually with more energy, redirected, reoriented, because you've been available to what's happening and what's going to change, rather than contracted in the face of it. So containment, we love it. I understand that it's being enforced right now, and maybe you don't like that. Well, all right, but that's what's up. And how long do you want to fight that? Wouldn't it be nicer to just look at it and choose it, right? You're not choosing the end of the world or the chaos or anything. Just choose containment and ask to be shown, ask to learn the power of containment. It's a deep feminine principle. It's a warrior's principle. It's what keeps you powerful. We tend, actually, as a culture, to be dispersed, overstimulated, overwhelmed, and to lack core strength, to lack personal power and the ability to stay focused and stay present with ourselves. It's just part of the way that culture is evolving right now. It's too much. So this opportunity to contain is an opportunity for you to feel things that you haven't felt, to feel yourself, to reckon with some things that you haven't had the time to reckon with, to bring yourself, your family close, to work a few things out. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean that if you can align with that movement, rather than holding so much angst around it, you're going to be much more nourished by it. You're going to be much more informed by the movement itself as to how you should move forward. In a time of freedom and expansion, there's all sorts of things that make sense, right? Visiting your friends, creating the next thing, expanding, right? That's not what makes sense right now. And if you can align with the wisdom of the times, what makes sense right now? Nourish, right? Come in, gather, reorient, deeply listen, right? Be with your loved ones. Be specific. Be present. Slow down time, right? There's a lot in containment. So I invite you to, again, notice the attachment, the over-attachment and the conditioning you have around freedom as the ideal state of being, and recognize the containment is its root. Containment and the power and the reservoir that gathers during times of containment is what allows expressions of freedom that actually create beauty, that actually take us where we want to go. What I want to say about containment too, and maybe you can actually feel into this with me, is that what you want to do if you want to really align with containment and have a chance to enjoy it, you have to be careful that you haven't bypassed containment and gone right into contraction. So containment is just a closer holding in which you can flower. Inside of a closer holding, like you're only at home or you've simplified things or there's closeness, a lot of things will unfold inside of that closeness that don't otherwise, right? But they won't if you're contracted. So if you can even just feel right now, the feeling of containment is just that there's something kind of close in holding you. That's containment. It's the vessel. It's the container. It's holding you. Inside of a strong container, you can actually relax, right? There's actually gentle movements that can happen. There's a way that you can actually open, and that's what you need to be able to do and aim towards inside of containment, so that you're staying alive inside of it, so that you are able to feel and move with the new life that's arising from this, even as a lot of things are falling away. Right? You have to stay alive. So contraction is going to feel like this. It's going to feel tight. It's going to feel in resistance to. It's going to feel held, right? Containment does not feel that way. And again, this is a feeling in your body. And again, the way that you attune your body to certain states and aim for them, find your intention towards them, is what can make the difference in all the changing circumstances. So containment, however you're being asked to contain your life and bring it closer in and hold yourself, see if you can ask that question. How can I hold this as safe, like holding, rather than a contraction? right? And how can I look towards, all right, what then wants to live inside of this? It might be that grief, that feelings, that there are things that have been wanting to unfold for your attention and awareness for years are going to come to the surface right now. I'm not saying that only beauty unfolds in containment, only fun, but life does unfold in containment, and you can trust that if you are allowing yourself to be contained, allow it to be a little close, allow life to come close, hold you close here, flower inside of that container and see what happens, right? You can trust that. That's what we're looking for in these times. What can we trust? There's too many kaleidoscopic changes happening on the surface, but you can trust the simpler movements. You can trust your being. Okay? Boundaries, containment, the unknown. So the unknown everywhere right now, and lots of people filling the unknown with a lot of stories, a lot of statistics, a lot of conflicting truths, a lot like the unknown out of fear, out of an unwillingness to just accept and sit in the unknown. The world, everything is getting full of a lot of strategies, a lot of empty, kind of grasping truths, right? You're in the unknown. We are in the unknown. How you sit with the unknown, period, is a lot of what's going to determine how much you thrive during this time. This is a natural ebb. And it doesn't mean it's comfortable, but ultimately, this is part of life. This is not to be feared. This is not some huge mistake. There is intelligence moving here. There is always wisdom. There is always a love. There is always resource and intelligence here for you. But you have got to be able to empty out enough of all the static and all the things that fill the unknown in order to hear it, in order to access it. There is an inner guidance that's going to get you through this time. It's going to tell you what you need when you need it. It's going to tell you what the next thing is to do. It's going to tell you when you need to slow down, when you need to connect with others, right? It's going to tell you. And you can trust it. But if you're full of static, if you're not able to sit in the unknown and empty out for a moment, it's going to be very difficult to access your inner knowing. And you need it right now. We need you to have it. That inner knowing has a sobriety and a wisdom in it that will not feed the frenzy, right? That will not feed your anxiety, that will help all of this, all of us, to calm down and make our best choices. So the unknown, can you sit in it? And that just means, can you sit and not know? Can you notice all the ways in which you really want to know because you really want to get the right strategy and you want to make sure everybody's okay and you want to know the latest development and you want to know the right practice to do, and that, can you just notice that for the excess that it is, for the empty striving that it is? Can you acknowledge that you don't know what's going to happen? That you're surrounded by the unknown. Because if you can just for some moments, just, okay, I don't know, I really don't know. And instead of saying, I don't know, and then filling it up with a bunch of things, just, I don't know, and sit there. Let it be for a minute. See what upwells out of that. So being in the unknown is about, from a deep feminine perspective especially, is actually the way in to clarity and deeper knowing, to what you really do know. To be in the unknown is to acknowledge that you're in the unknown. To be willing to sit in it, be absorbed into the silence of it, and then to see what comes from inside of you. What feels right. What you notice, what becomes clear. So it's not a movement of then realizing you don't know, and then reaching out for all the answers and all the information and all the experts. And it's not that movement. It's coming in, and what we'll do is it will give you presence, it will give you power and agency in the moment. It will align you with your deeper knowing so that you don't feel so alone, so that you feel resourced. And from that place, you'll be so much more clear about when and how and what you choose to reach out toward, right? It won't be this kind of open-ended, just take anything in that you can so that you can try to figure out the answer. You can't. But you can sit in the unknown and let what you do know rise to the surface. You can become fortified by what you do know. And from what you do know and this trustworthy guidance, you can move into decisively and with specificity toward the things that can help you kind of find the practical answers, find what it is you do need to do, what you need to handle, what you should know. I hope that makes sense. So we're being initiated more deeply into the sacred power of boundaries, boundaries that keep you in and gather power to you rather than attempting to keep everything out. Boundaries, the sacred power of containment, right? The warrior wisdom of containment. That is not contraction. It's a holding so that something tender, something rare, something true can unfold. We're all being put in it. We're all on little mini vision quests if we want to, if we accept it. It may be uncomfortable, but it's powerful. And it will answer some of the deeper questions that you've had and some of the deeper needs that you've had for longer than you would like to imagine. Right? We're being pushed into the depths. Finally, the unknown. How you sit in the unknown. Can you let it be a resource? Can you let the unknown kind of draw you in, surround you, and kind of push you in, give you a little help getting inside, closer to your own direct knowing and your internal guidance, right? And stay connected to that. How you know when you find that is it feels calm and sober. You will feel coherent, right? You'll be able to hear the truth that you've got this. You really do. Right? So I'll be talking to you every week for a little while. I'm really with you, very much so. I'm doing Sunday services if you want to take a deeper drop in where we actually do a little practice together and just spend some time together Sunday morning. Those are free also. Feel free to join. I'm with you. I really believe and I trust in the underlying movement of these times. I understand what it is to go through a time of stripping away, of chaos and unknown, and I know that it doesn't make it all good, and it doesn't make it necessarily easy, but I do know that there is always a current, there's an emergence rising. Whenever there's a shed like this, whenever we are being stripped bare, that is in order that in emergence, that there be room for an emergence. So, to whatever extent you can, in whatever way you can, see if you can touch in or stay close to the very subtle, sometimes very clear pulse of that. What is emerging during these times for you? There's a soul forging happening, and there is a deep nourishment that's available when we understand that. Stay well, stay wise. I send you all my love. Blessed be.